Hello everyone and welcome back to Carvenus 14. Now today we are going to be doing another Jinshi video. Now today is it's actually a guide video for Jinshi since Jinshi has actually been officially revealed to be having her rerun in patch 2.0 in the second phase next to Roshia. So I thought it'd be the perfect time now to make a Jinshi guide for those of you that wanted Jinshi but missed her out because you weren't playing in patch 1.1, or maybe you just were unsure about her and realized that she's actually one of the strongest DPSs in the game, in my opinion, probably the strongest DPS in the game. Yeah. Now, without further ado, let's get on with it. So, what is Jinshi? Jinshi is a female in the game of Wuthering Waves, and she's a 5-star Spectro main DPS. Now, Jinshi's main form of damage is resonant skill damage, meaning she deals all of her damage in resonant skill form, right? Well, I say all of it, it's technically most of it, and she deals some damage in her resonance liberation as well, but 75% of Jinshi's damage is resonant skill damage. So the priority you want to focus on is resonant skill damage. Now let's actually go into Jinshi's kit itself and see what she does. So Jinshi's basic attack, well, I'll actually show you, to be fair. Jinshi's basic attack is pretty basic but also pretty cool. What she does is she'll do 4 strikes. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And she arguably has one of the best normal attack combos in the game, simply because she pulls out a flipping dragon from nowhere and strikes down with Spectro Lightning. So, yeah. Oh, fun fact, by the way, in some mythologies, especially Asian mythologies, lightning is known as well, God's wrath, effectively. So, yeah, and what is Jue? Well, technically, Jue is a sentinel, which are effectively celestial entities. So, yeah, basically, the lightning represents Jue's wrath, effectively, which is pretty cool. So, yeah. But that's Jinshi's basic attack combo. She does 4 basic attacks, and then, of course, you've got her charge attack, which is basically useless. You'll never see it. That's Jinshi's charge attack. And you've also got her plunging attack as well. Now, another fun fact, actually, about Jinshi's plunging attack, like a lot of characters' plunging attacks in the game, Jinshi's plunging attack puts her in the air. Like, it shoots her up in the air a little bit more, as you can see, right? So you can actually do a trick where instead of just doing, like, that, basically, you can actually get even more height by mixing in her mid-air attacks as well. So you'd go something, well, once the grappling hook comes back, you'd go something like this, right?
Be swift. The sky beckons. Onwards.
Like that, and then you just come down, basically. Yeah. You could do, like, pretty interesting combos with her as well, especially with the grappling hook. So, yeah. Also, guys, another thing is, Jinshi's main actual source of damage, right, is coming from her resonance skill. Okay, so we just discussed her basic attacks. Her resonance skill, well, Jinshi's interesting because she actually has 4 resonance skills. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So this is her regular elemental skill, but you're not really going to be using this that much unless for exploration or just to weave in, like, through your normal attack combos and then you go back in or something. Yeah. Now, this is the second one, alright? You see the one where it's Jinshi's feet, right? That is the second one, and what this will do is this will lift Jinshi up in the air, alright? And now, you've got access to your resonance skill combo, alright? And then you've got the 4th elemental skill right here, okay? So, basically,
may I pray for anything specific?
How it works is effectively Jinshi's forte circuit is where it is. So it's called incarnation mode. And when Jinshi uses her second elemental skill, right, the one with her feet picks, right, that one throws her, the one that throws her into the air where she flies up, basically, that one enables her to be in incarnation mode. When she's in incarnation mode, she will basically do 4 basic attacks. Alright, so her first two and then the second two. So the first two are like regular sword attacks with her broad blade, and then the third one brings out Jue, and then the fourth one, Jue will spiral up and strike down. That's what the resonance skill combo is. In fact, the main reason I actually pulled for Jinshi was because her her attack strings look so good. Easily one of the best looking attack strings in the game. No, the best looking attack string in the game, I would probably say. So, yeah. So yeah. Now, Jinshi also does get this other elemental skill, right, which is actually just like this first one, except it's a mid-air dash. Okay, so when you go in the air, you can see Jue, like, doing a spiral kind of thing, right? That is because that is a dash, and Jue comes out, right? And then you've got your fourth elemental skill, which, oh, sorry, resonance skill, which is the massive dragon laser that does 1,000,000 damage and is the reason why Jinshi is on top in terms of damage, right? So, yeah, basically what it is I'll explain it to you again slowly. So you put yourself up into the air. Now you're in incarnation mode, okay? This third skill is present divinity, and you can use it whenever, and this is when incarnation mode ends, and when you see Jue's face behind Jinshi's face, okay, and the resonance skill button is glowing again, now you are in the ordination glow state, right? And what ordination glow state means is it allows Jinshi to access the dragon laser. Alright? And now we're in ordination glow, and you finish off ordination glow with this. Alright? Jue's attack. Jue's laser beam, effectively. So, yeah, that is basically the rundown of Jinshi's resonance skill. Her resonance skill and her forte circuit, right? So, yeah. Now, another thing is, well, actually, there is one more thing. That you do have access to a heavy attack with Jinshi's elemental skill, right? But it's not really that useful until the very end of your combo, right? That's the heavy attack, you see? This plunging attack right there, that plunging attack that Jinshi did, okay?
Yeah!
Oh, right.
Fluorescent shadows.
Yeah, so the plunging attack that Jinshi does, that is the heavy attack. Alright, so yeah, you can basically do it whenever, but the best way, well, at least the best rotation that I've found for Jinshi is, well, let's say you just come onto the field with Jinshi after using her intro skill. You do, well, you go into the air, and then you do this, heavy attack, and then you finish off with Ordination Glow, Jue's laser beam, right? That's the way I prefer to play Jinshi, because you just get more damage. A lot of people, they won't actually finish off the fourth attack, they just go after the third attack into Ordination Glow, which, to be fair enough, that also works, because that's the main portion of Jinshi's damage. But I prefer to finish off the entire combo because aesthetics. So, yeah. Now, that is effectively, you know, Jinshi's resonance skill. What you want to do is you want to come onto the field, get Jinshi up into the air, into her, what's it called? Her incarnation state, then go into Ordination Glow, which gives you access to Jue's light beam, and basically swap off the field. That's effectively Jinshi, right? Yeah. Now, resonance skill Illuminous Epiphany. This is Jue's laser beam that I showed you guys earlier. It's actually got a separate name called Illuminous Epiphany, right? So Illuminous Epiphany basically is when you enter right after the Ordination Glow state, when Jue does his laser beam, that's the state that it's called. Now, Illuminous Epiphany, the way it works is Jue will do 6 small instances of damage during the initial laser beam, and the massive explosion bit at the very end that you guys see, that is the big bit of damage that Jue will do, right? Yeah. So that is effectively it. Now, of course, we could read over the entire thing, but I don't want to bore you guys to death, so I'm just explaining it on the fly, as, you know, how it is meant to be interpreted. Now, Unison. Unison is another thing that Jinshi actually has exclusively to herself. So, because Jinshi is a character that mainly deals, resonance skill damage, right? And she only deals damage in her resonance skill state, right? Once Jinshi does her, like, Jue's laser beam, right, Unison will effectively trigger. And what that means is you can swap onto another character, and that will trigger their intro skill, and also trigger Jinshi's outro skill, right? Because Jinshi has one flaw with her kit. She can't build Concerto energy very quickly. So Unison helps with that. What Unison will do is, well, if we go back to the description, right, what Unison is going to do is, while Jinshi has Unison, switching to other resonators will remove Jinshi's Unison to trigger her outro skill and the incoming character's intro skill. Yeah, so Jinshi can't build up her Concerto bar very quickly. So Unison actually comes along to help with that. Right? And if you didn't know, Unison happens every other rotation. So it kind of alternates between her Concerto bar and also Unison. So let's say you start off with the Concerto outro, then the second rotation will be the Unison outro, and then it will be Concerto again, and then it will be Unison, and then Concerto, Unison, and so on and so forth. That's how it works, right? Because Jinshi, at the end of the day, is a unit that can only deal damage in her, her resonance skill form. After Jinshi's resonance skill is done, she doesn't have any damage left. Once she's done Jue's laser beam, that's it. She can't really do any more damage after that. And in fact, there's another thing about Jinshi's combo, guys. If you didn't know, most characters can obviously reset their combo, right? Not Jinshi, okay? Like, after a while, that was the first attack. Now, this is the second one, okay? I'm trying... Like, you can't reset it. This is the third, and that's the fourth, right? And then you got the heavy attack. And, yeah, like, you see, like, that's the way it works, right? So, once Jinshi has done her entire resonance skill combo, she's got nothing, right? See? Like, I'm trying to do the rest of the combo, but it's just not... It's not there. Right? So, Jinshi can only deal damage once in her rotation, and then she has to go off field, right? Which is why Unison exists, okay? Unison exists for that very purpose, to help her. And now we've got another part to Jinshi's Forte circuit, which is called Incandescence. Now, for those of you that have been watching my Jinshi discussion videos, where I talk about, you know, some of Jinshi's issues that she's had, and some, you know, things about, you know, Jinshi's interactions with different characters, you know what Incandescence is. Now, Incandescence, for those of you that don't know, is basically Jinshi's Forte bar. So you see this Forte bar down here, guys, above my health bar, next to the Concerto bar, right? That is Jinshi's Forte circuit. Now, Jinshi's Forte circuit is just one massive bar. There's no segments like some characters like Jeji and Changli, right? And the way it works is basically when your characters do a form of damage, okay?
For you?
When your characters do a form, well, let's just read it out. Jinshi can hold up to 50 of these incandescences. So each segment counts as one, basically. So there's 50 of those little things, you know, the Forte circuit on that bar, right? So she can hold 50 of them. When Jinshi is in the party, all nearby resonators in the party gain errors in unity. Okay? Errors in unity provide two independent effects. Jinshi gains one incandescence anytime resonators in the party inflict attribute damage. Okay? This may be triggered by damage of the same attribute one time every 3 seconds. Okay? So when anyone does any form of attribute damage, so any elemental damage basically, Jinshi will gain one incandescent stack, and this can happen once every 3 seconds. Now, what the game doesn't tell you is that Jinshi actually has separate counters for each element, okay? So when you trigger one incandescent stacks for, let's say, an electro element, right, you won't be able to gain another electro-infused incandescence, basically, for the next 3 seconds, right? So it actually does have separate counters, and for, let's say, you know, what's it called? Aero, it's the exact same thing. So each element has their own individual counters, effectively, which is why Jinshi prefers rainbow teams. And another thing, Jinshi does not want to be on on the same elemental type. Right? So meaning she doesn't want to be with other Spectro units, okay? Now, the reason for that is because Jinshi already has Spectro covered because she is a Spectro element, right? So she can already proc Spectro damage herself. So anyone else that procs Spectro will not count towards the incandescent stacks, which is an issue because, you know, two of the best supports, Verena and Shorekeeper, are Spectro, right? The thing is Verena is still a very good unit because Verena has coordinated attacks, right? But Shorekeeper doesn't, which is why Shorekeeper, you need to pair her with Jeji. I mean, I go more in depth with the Jinshi and Shorekeeper video that I've made. I will probably link to that video down below if you guys want to check that out. Yeah, basically TLDR, Jinshi doesn't want other Spectro units unless they can provide coordinated attacks, right? So yeah. Additionally, Jinshi gains 2 incandescent stacks when resonators in the party damage the enemy with coordinated attacks, okay? This effect may be triggered by coordinated attacks of the same attribute for up to 1 time every 3 seconds. So, yeah, if you have coordinated attacks, then it will actually count as well. Now, this is why coordinated attacks are more favored, right? Because Jinshi can stack them up a lot faster, obviously. Getting 2 stacks compared to 1 stack is obviously a lot better, right? Which is why Jinshi's best teammates are Yuan, Wu, Verena, Jeji, you know, those kind of characters, basically. Yin Lin as well. So, yeah. That's why coordinated attackers are mainly used on Jinshi teams compared to other teammates. Yeah. Now, of course, Jinshi also does have an outro skill that does help with this, okay? Now that that's basically her forte circuit, okay? So let's say I put down Yuan Wu's ring, right? And Verena's ultimate is going off. So every time I attack an enemy, right, they will take coordinated damage. And when coordinated damage happens, this bar will fill up, okay? Yeah. Now that is how Jinshi's bar works. Whenever other characters do coordinated damage or elemental damage, Jinshi will gain incandescent stacks, and the more stacks she has, the more damage she will do with Jue's laser beam, right? Because the way it works, if you guys didn't know, is Illuminous Epiphany. That's what it's called, okay? Illuminous Epiphany Stellar Glamour damage. That's the one we're looking at. 347.92% at a base at talent level 10, okay? But additional multiplier per incandescence, which means for every 1 incandescent stack you have, the damage multiplier will go up by 44.54%. Yeah, which if you do the math, 44 multiplied by 50 is a lot of damage, okay? That's like, what? Like, that's, what is that? That's like 22,000. No, sorry, not 22,000. 2,250, well, technically not 2,250. 2,248% or something like that. I'm not even joking. That is genuinely how the multipliers work, right? So when you have the full 50 incandescent stack, you get an extra 2,250% multiplier added on top of the base 347.92. Yeah. That's why Jinshi is able to hit so damn hard with her skill, right? Because her multiplier is just that ridiculous. That is genuinely how it works, right? Yeah. So basically, the entire game plan of Jinshi is you put down your support's coordinated attacks and stuff, and obviously deal damage with your sub-DPS and do their rotation and things. Then when you get onto Jinshi, you want to basically have the bar at least nearly full as a minimum, right? Like 40 stacks or something like that. Because then when Jinshi comes on, she'll be able to do the rest of it, okay? Now, another pretty important thing is that Jinshi's outro skill actually helps very, very much. So when Jinshi's outro skill procs, okay, summoning the power homologous, right? Yeah, summoning the power homologous with the Sentinel, Jinshi may now gain incandescence via errors of unity from damage of the same attribute more effectively at 1 time every 1 second for 20 seconds. Yeah, so this is why Jinshi's unison effect is very, very important, because when Jinshi procs her outro skill, now she gains incandescence so much faster, because some coordinated attacks will actually trigger, you know, really quickly, right? Like Yuan Wu, he procs once every 2 seconds or something like that, right? So yeah, now that with this effect, you're able to you know, trigger the outro skill so well, right? You're able to trigger errors of unity a lot more efficiently, right? So you gain more incandescent stack, which is why Jinshi's outro skill is so unique, because what is it? Most DPSs have, like, you know, they have damaging outro skills, like, you know, what's his name? Ji-Yan, right? He's got a pretty damaging outro skill, but Jinshi is more of a utility-based one that helps her to deal more damage when she basically comes back on the field. So yeah, so that's effectively Jinshi's entire kit, guys. So yeah, that's effectively how it works. Now, another thing is Jinshi's burst, or resonance, or liberation, I should say. Yeah, so Jinshi's resonance liberation is she calls upon Jue to deal a massive amount of damage, and it is the most cinematic experience you'll ever experience in this game. For now, at least, anyway. So, yeah, it's brilliant. And it does do 2 instances of damage, and the damage is pretty insane, because you can see 500% plus 1,166%. Yeah, for a total of like 1,600% in terms of multiplier damage. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, the only drawback to this ultimate is that it's actually quite expensive. So you won't be using it every single rotation. You'll only be using it every other rotation. So every second rotation, basically. Yeah. Now, another thing about Jinshi's kit is that her intro skill is actually very important, because Jinshi, if you guys didn't know, when Jinshi triggers her intro skill, she doesn't need to do her 4 basic attacks, right? She doesn't need to do her 4 basic attacks, when normally she would. When you trigger her intro skill, you come on with her, you know, her feet picks already available, right? So now you get access to your damage a lot easier. Before, you'd have to work hard for the feet picks. Now, you don't have to once you trigger the elemental, you know, the resonance skill. So, let's say you're doing like a typical rotation with Verena. Your thing is stacked up, and then you put Yuan Wu on the field, do his thing, this, and then you go on to Jinshi, and she has her feet picks available, and that's how basically it works, right? So when you trigger Jinshi's intro skill, guys, her feet picks become accessible, so you can go into incandescence or incarnation a lot easier, right? So normally you'd have to do the full 4 basic attacks, but once you trigger her intro skill, right, now you can go into it straight away, basically, all right? And then do her entire rotation, and then do that, slam back down, do her burst, and stuff like that. So, yeah, that is effectively Jinshi's entire kit, and how Jinshi works, and how you would want to play her, right? In fact, I will do an actual rotation showcase against one of the bosses, so that you guys get a better depiction of how to play her, but that will be towards the end of the video. So, yeah, now that we've covered her kit, how do we actually build her? Well, it's very straightforward. Jinshi's best-in-slot weapon is the only real option that you kind of want to use. Unless you also have Ji-Yan's weapon. Ji-Yan's weapon is also pretty good as well. Ji-Yan's weapon is also viable, but you want to get Jinshi's weapon, because that's her best-in-slot option. Of course, if you don't want to go for her weapon, that's fine. Yeah, so you've got Ji-Yan's best-in-slot weapon. That also works. Then you've got the 5-star... what's it called? The 5-star... where is it? Not this one. I want to switch weapons. How do you switch? There it is. Yeah. You have this. Alright? So, yeah, you've got Lustrous Razor, which it's not the best option, but for your 5-star option, if you don't have any of the other options, you're better off going with this one, right? I mean, everyone, once they hit Union level 45, you do have the option to choose a weapon. So you can choose this one for Jinshi if you would like to, but it's not the best, because whenever you cast your Resonance skill, your damage bonus on the Resonance Liberation, well, to be fair, Jinshi can make use of this passive really, really well, because you use a lot of your, you know, you do tap, like, your Resonance skill, like, 3 times at least. So, yeah, she's able to actually make use of this very, very easily compared to a lot of other, what is it, Broadblade users. So, yeah, you can definitely do that. And at max level, which is such a great feature that you have, it has the same base attack as Jinshi's weapon, and it's got attack as a substat. Yeah, which... obviously, it's not bad, but Jinshi definitely wants crit rate or crit damage, which is why her signature weapon, or Ji-Yan's signature weapon, is the best option for her. Now, as for 4 stars, well,
May I pray
Unfortunately,
for
my knowledge of
for you?
4-star weapons
It
in
would
this
be
game
my
is not
honor.
really that high, so you will have to forgive me. But the Helios Cleaver is not a bad option, but any weapon that gives you attack... To be fair, 4-star weapons in Wuthering Waves are very lacking. They're not really as good, and we don't really have very great Broadblade options either, unfortunately. Yeah, so there's, yeah, Helios Cleaver is a pretty good option that you can go for. I mean, after 12 seconds using your Resonance skill, you increase your attack by 3%, so it stacks up to 12 times. So you just get more attack, really, and it's actually quite good. Not this one. Not this weapon. This weapon, surprisingly, is like a Jue related weapon, right? Yeah, restores 4 Concerto energy when Outro skill is cast, restores 4. I mean, this isn't a bad option for Jinshi, but it is a 3-star weapon option, and I don't think you'd want to use 3-star weapon options. There is one option that is good for Jinshi, but the only drawback is that you kind of have to pay for it. Yeah, I think it was Autumn Trace. It was called. Yeah. Yeah, Autumn Trace. It gives you crit rate, which is a nice substat, and at max level it's 412 with 20% crit rate. So yeah, it's actually not that bad. It's actually, I mean, in terms of crit rate substats, it's pretty comparable to Jinshi's weapon. Yeah. But increases the attack percent by 4% upon dealing basic attack or heavy attack damage. Yeah. You see, that's a bit of an issue with this weapon, right? So, Jinshi's main source of damage... Oh, yeah, that is one thing I completely forgot to say, guys. But when Jinshi is doing her, her damage in her resonance skill, right? When she's in this state, all of this damage is counted as resonance skill damage, right? All of it, including the Jue's laser beam. So, basic attack damage multipliers and heavy attack damage multipliers don't affect that portion of damage. It's all considered resonance skill damage, right? Which is a problem with Autumn Trace, because it's basically just a stat stick, right? Yeah. But effectively, for weapon options, really, anything that gives you crit rate, crit damage, or attack percent, those are your best options, right? For 5-star weapons, obviously, Jinshi's main best in slot, right? Which is, I forgot the name of it. Ages of Harvest, right? Or you've got Verdant Summit, which is Ji Yan's best in slot, and Lustrous Razor, which is the free 5-star weapon that you can get at Union level 45, right? You can go for that as well. But those are your 3 best options, right? The 4 stars aren't really that amazing, to be fair, because they're all attack percent based options, really, and there's only one crit rate option, which Jinshi can't really utilize the passive of that well. So yeah, that's a bit of a drawback, but that's basically it for Jinshi's weapons, to be honest. As for Jinshi's echoes, well, there's only really one option, right? And that is Celestial Light. Now, the thing is Jinshi does have another option, which is the attack set, right? The attack percent set. What was it called? What was that set called?
May I pray for anything specific?
Where is it? Lingering Tunes, that's it. Yeah, Lingering Tunes isn't a bad option, but it's the outro skill is kind of wasted. Right? What is it? Yeah, the outro skill is kind of wasted, but it's still not a bad option that you can go. And the monster dude, this dude, the Mech Abomination, is also not a bad resonance skill. Not resonance skill, sorry, echo skill that you can go. But to be fair, I would honestly just say, don't even bother with Lingering Tunes. You're just better off going Celestial Light. If you don't have a good Celestial Light set, you can actually do 2-piece mixes. So you can do a 2-piece Celestial Light with 2-piece Lingering Tunes. So you get Spectra damage bonus, and you also get you know, attack percentage. But what this set will actually do is this gives you 10% Spectra damage bonus as a 2 set, and the 5 set, what that will do is it will, whenever you trigger your intro skill, right, you also gain an extra 30% Spectro damage bonus. So basically, you always want to trigger, you know, Jinshi's intro skill anyway. So basically, whenever you trigger your intro skill and come onto the field, you'll get like 40% Spectra damage bonus. Yeah, which is insane, right? And I believe it's like for 15 seconds as well, which is really good because Jinshi wants to be on the field for like 10 seconds as a like an average, right? After that, she'd kind of jump off the field, but 10 seconds is kind of the average you want to stay on the field. So yeah. Now, as for Jinshi's echoes, well, it's very very linear. There's only really one option that Jinshi can go, and that is Jue. Right now, we've already done a discussion of Jue and Jinshi's synergy in a separate video. But Jue is most of the time, if not all of the time, going to be better than what's it called? Jue is always going to be better than the the morning IX, right? Because the thing is that the morning IX is it's not really that great compared to Jue, because number one, Jue provides coordinated attacks for Jinshi, right, which is really nice. Number two, Jue also increases the resonance skill damage that Jinshi does, right? And number three, Jue is a summon. Okay, which means Jinshi doesn't transform into Jue, right? So that's just more DPS a lot faster, right? Whereas with the Morning IX buffs Spectro damage, which is not bad for Jinshi, but it also buffs Resonance Liberation damage, which also, once again, isn't bad for Jinshi. But the Morning IX, for whatever reason, you can't use the Morning IX's Echo skill when you're airborne, right? Jue you can. Right, which is really good because, as you all know, Jinshi is 100% of the time going to be in the air when she's doing her damage. So using an echo that can be used in the air is obviously going to benefit her more than something that you can't. So Jue can be used in the air, but for whatever reason, the Morning IX can't, even though the Morning IX is an airborne enemy, right? Yeah, so that's one drawback that the Morning IX has. And another thing that the Morning IX has is that the Morning IX is a transformation, right? Which isn't bad, right? But the thing is Jinshi, because it has to be used on the ground, you kind of have to use the Morning IX after, right? After you've done your Resonance Skill combo, right? Which isn't good, okay? And the reason I say that is because you're on a time limit whenever you enter in Incarnation mode, right? When you enter Incarnation mode, after you've got 10 seconds, and when you finish that, you go into Coordination Glow, which will last for like 5 seconds, okay? So if you're wasting time transformed into, you know, the Morning IX, that's less time for you to work around your Resonance skill. Okay, so yeah, it's really not that good of an option, to be honest, because it's just a big time waste, the Morning IX, right? Compared to Jue, which is a lot better. Okay, so yeah, Jue is just so much more convenient to use. Jue also does do more damage than Morning IX and buffs Jinshi in a much better way that's more useful for her. Yeah. All right. And another thing, I believe Jue also does have some time warping capabilities as well, when she goes up into the air and then slams back down. Yeah, at least it looks like it to me in my eyes. I mean, canonically, Jue does have the power over time manipulation somewhat. So, yeah. Now, as for what the main stat you're going to be looking for, well, the main stat you want to look for, guys, is crit damage or crit rate. Those are the only real two options. Now, preferably, you want crit damage, okay? But it really depends on the weapon you're running. If you're running a crit rate weapon, you want crit damage, like Ages of Harvest, which is Jinshi's signature, okay? But if you're running something like Verdant Summit, which is Ji Yan's weapon, which gives crit damage, you'd want crit rate, right? But at the end of the day, it depends on your crit rate to crit damage ratio. If you feel as though you need more crit rate, go for crit rate. If you feel as though you need more crit damage, go for crit damage. So, yeah, as you can see, I have a crit damage main stat one. And we'll talk about substats later, but you could probably already tell what kind of substats you really want to be going for. So, yeah. And as for Jinshi's 3-cost echoes, now, that's very interesting, because technically speaking, you do actually get more damage if you go for Spectra damage bonus and attack percent, right? But it's actually only a 1 to 2% difference, right? And at that point, it's a substat difference. So you guys don't need to worry about it that much. You can go for attack percent or Spectra damage bonus, or double Spectra damage bonus like I've gotten. The damage difference really isn't that bad, but you definitely want at least 1 Spectra damage bonus, okay? Yeah. And as for the 1-cost ones, well, the only answer you really go is attack percent, right? So, yeah, to recap, 4-cost Echo is, you know, what's it called? Crit rate or crit damage. Then 3 cost is Spectro or Spectro attack, and then the 1 cost ones is attack and attack percent. Yeah. Now, if you want to go for a 4-4-1-1-1 combination, you can go for Jue, Morning Ix, and then 3 of the 1 cost echoes. But that's not it's not really that competitive late game. Well, to be fair, it also does work if you're at S6 quite well, but I personally wouldn't recommend it because it doesn't allow a lot of freedom with your echoes, right? It's just a more restrictive build because you've got less options to choose from. Yeah. Now, as for substats, guys, well, there's 4 main substats you're really looking for: crit rate, crit damage, resonance skill damage bonus, and energy regen. Right, as you can see, my echoes aren't really. I mean, they're good, right? But they don't have any energy regen. In fact, my Jinshi doesn't have any energy regen. To be fair, I've never really had a problem with my resonance liberation not being up when I want it to. It's up. It's actually up every second rotation. Funnily enough, every second/third rotation, right? Yeah. So it's pretty interesting how that works, but typically, you want around 150% energy regen on Jinshi. A little bit less or a little bit more is actually always nice, but getting a good energy regen number is pretty good. Now, I've personally never had a problem with not having, with not having enough energy regen. Like, my Jinshi is still performing quite well, and I feel as though her burst does come up a decent amount of times. So I personally don't have a problem, but it probably does need more testing. It's just my echoes are not really insane when it comes to energy regen. So yeah, as you can see, we've got the best pieces that you could go for would definitely be crit rate, crit damage, resonance skill damage bonus, resonance liberation damage bonus, and energy regen. Those are the 5 perfect stats that you could probably go for on Jinshi, but the main ones you really want are crit rate, crit damage, and resonance skill damage bonus. Those are the only 3 main ones that you would like. As long as you have those, you're in a good position. As you can see, crit damage, crit rate, resonance skill, crit rate, resonance skill, crit damage, crit rate, crit damage, resonance skill damage, crit damage, and resonance skill damage, crit rate, and crit damage, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it for Jinshi's echoes. We've gone over her talents, and now it's time for her constellation. Her sequences. So Jinshi's sequences are very unique, right? Because Jinshi is one of the very few DPSs in the game, 5-star DPSs at least, that doesn't seem to have any crit rate or crit damage modifiers in her sequences. However, she does gain a stupid amount of base damage multipliers in her sequences, and we'll go over them now. So Jinshi's S1, I'm just going to summarize these. Jinshi's S1 basically makes it so that every time she does a resonance skill damage attack, so whenever she does a normal attack or her elemental skill in the incarnation mode, right, she will gain 20% increased damage to her Jue's laser beam. Now, this is the base damage, so the Illuminous Epiphany base damage that you see, not the individual stacks, but the base damage, so the 347% that you saw before, that's what that will increase. And it will increase it by 20%, okay, for 6 seconds. Yeah. Where does it say that? It says 20% somewhere. There it is, yeah, 20%. Yeah, so it's 20% multiplied by 4, which is 80%. So an 80% increase multiplier on the base damage, and it actually does do quite a bit. Like, my Jinshi before S1 was hitting on average around like 160, 170,000, right? But once I got this S1, it shot up to 210 to 220,000. Yeah, so it's kind of ridiculous. It is kind of ridiculous, honestly. Yeah. Then there's her S2, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually a very good constellation. What it will do is when you're out of combat for 4 seconds, Jinshi will gain all 50 of her incandescent stacks straight away. Now, why is this good? Because Jinshi isn't a front-loaded damage dealer, right? Jinshi actually needs time to build up her incandescent stacks, so she always does most damage in her second rotation onwards. This makes it so that her first rotation is no longer useless, right? Even though Jinshi's first rotation is still pretty good, it now is more reliable because you don't have to wait on building up your incandescent stacks. You have it all there, right? So you can set down your buffs, go into Incarnation on Jinshi, do her damage, go back, refresh your buffs, and the damage will basically be the same. So instead of Jinshi's damage being low at the beginning and higher later on, it's actually a constant high, right? So yeah, this is actually very good. It's not really a damage buff per se. It's more of a utility buff, which helps her, you know, consistency quite a decent amount. Now, Jinshi's S3 is very good. So whenever Jinshi uses her her elemental her intro skill or her resonance liberation, I believe. Yeah. She will gain an immortal descendants. No, it is just her intro skill. Yeah. So it's just her intro skill. Whenever Jinshi uses her intro skill, she will gain this stack, and each stack will give her 25% increased attack, and it can last for a long time, 20 seconds, and she can have 2 of these stacks. So 25% multiplied by 2 is 50%. So if you trigger 2 of these intro skills, right, which you will be able to do, okay, you will get 50% extra attack, which is ridiculous. I mean, let's say you have 2,000 attack, right, which is kind of what you want to be aiming for. That's an extra 1,000 attack right there, which obviously is ridiculous, especially for someone like Jinshi, whose base multipliers are really, really high, right? Yeah. Now, Jinshi's S4 basically makes it so that after she uses her Resonance Liberation or her or Jue's Laser Beam, everyone in the party will gain a 20% attribute damage bonus for 20 seconds. So that also includes Jinshi as well. So it's everyone in the party, including Jinshi, right? Yeah, so 20% extra spectral damage bonus for Jinshi is very, very nice. It's definitely her weakest constellation in her kit, though, if you do the math. But honestly, it's still a very good constellation. Now, her S5 is very straightforward. This just increases the total multiplier of her burst by 120%. So it doesn't add on 120% separately, it actually adds it on together. So it's an extra 120% added on, right? So think of it as a third number, basically. Yeah. You've got the 2 damage multipliers right there, and then the total is added, the total is increased by an extra 120%. So it's actually a pretty big constellation, right? So yeah, this just turns the nuclear warhead into 2 nuclear warheads, basically. Yeah. And then there's her S6, which is ridiculous, okay? What if you guys don't understand what this does? Basically, it increases Jinshi's, Illuminous Epiphany, so Jue's Laser Beam's base damage by 45%, okay? So the base damage multiplier will go from 347% to 392%, okay? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is where the big stuff happens, okay? The incandescence stack multiplier is increased by 45%, okay? So, if you guys remember the incandescence multiplier stack here, 44.54, that goes up by an extra 45%. So instead of being 44%, now it's effectively 89%. Yeah, incandescence multiplier, right? So for every 1 incandescent stack Jinshi has, her Illuminous Epiphany will do 89%, increased multiplier. Yeah. So that is ridiculous. I did actually calculate this at one point, and if I remember correctly, the number goes up from 2,250% to like 4,200 and something percent, right? Yeah, this was like a while ago when Jinshi did come out, so I may have forgotten the number, but it was around 4,200. I relatively remember that. So yeah, this is why Jinshi's S6 is one of the strongest S6s in the game. Because, yes, she doesn't get any crit rate or crit damage multipliers in her kit, but she makes up for that for a lot of base damage. Like, a very nice amount of base damage increase in her kit. So, yeah. But that's basically Jinshi, guys. I'm going to do a little bit of a damage showcase, alright? And what we're going to do... I'm not putting myself against the friggin' that hologram. What's a good hologram to test ourselves against?
What is a good hologram to test ourselves against? You know, let's do Monkey. Where's Monkey? Not that guy. Monkey. Is this Monkey? I think this is Monkey, yes. Valerian Beringal. You, sir, shall be used. Because I need a damaged partner. And you're the closest. So, yeah. So, I'll show you guys basically a showcase of how Jinshi's rotations would work. Alright? Yeah. So, actually, you know what? I completely forgot to go over Jinshi's team. Right. Yeah. How do you change team again? I actually completely forgot. Ah, team, that's it. Okay, so who does Jinshi want on her team? Well, it's simple. Anyone with coordinated attacks. I don't have a lot of characters to show off here, but anyone with coordinated attacks synergizes really, really well with Jinshi. So Yuan Wu, Verena, Zheji, Yinlin, I know what you're thinking. Bai Zhe is actually... She's not a bad option, but it's just that Bai Zhe just is not really that great later on in the game, because Verena kind of power creeps her, and everyone has access to Verena at this point, so yeah. And then, of course, there's also Mortefi. Now, the reason I don't recommend Mortefi is because Mortefi's, what is it, his coordinated attacks will actually trigger off of resonance, Mortefi's coordinated attacks triggers off of basic attacks and heavy attacks, okay? The thing is like I said, Jinshi, while she's in her resonance skill state, she will deal resonance skill damage. So she won't be able to trigger the coordinated attacks that Mortefi does, right? Yeah. Now, who's the best teammate for Jinshi? Well, as of right now, obviously, Zheji and Yinlin, but a lot of people would say that Yuan Wu is better than Yinlin. And do I agree with that? I think they both have advantages and disadvantages. Yinlin does more damage than Yuan Wu, but Yuan Wu is a lot easier to get the coordinated attacks off, right? Yeah, and Yinlin does have a bit of a weird thing where she can overkill the enemies, so the coordinated attacks will kind of run out if you kill them too quickly, so there's that. Yeah, but Yuan Wu isn't like that. Zheji is undoubtedly the best, but second place I would definitely recommend Yuan Wu and, you know, Yinlin. Verena is also here because she can provide coordinated attacks, and she's a healer, right? And she can also, because she's a healer, she can utilize some of the best, you know, the healing set, and she can utilize the Fallacy of No Return, which gives your team attack, and you've also got the Bellborn as an option as well. So, yeah, that's actually very, very nice. That you can use, but basically in the third slot you want to have Verena. Now, yes, Shorekeeper is also an option, but like I said, I've already done an entire video on Shorekeeper and Jinshi and how they would kind of interact with each other. But TLDR, I would only really recommend Shorekeeper if you have Zheji, because Zheji provides a very high and consistent amount of incandescent stacks compared to other units. Yes, I know Yinlin is also very good. The problem is Yinlin, when you kill the opponents, the mark disappears, and you have to reapply the mark again, which means you have to go through another cycle of, you know, building up her Forte circuit and stuff. So, yes, Yinlin is also not a bad option, but Zheji is just more consistent, right, compared to Yinlin. So that's why I would recommend Zheji being paired up with Jinshi if you want to run Shorekeeper. And that's the only case where I would recommend Shorekeeper on Jinshi teams. Everyone else, I would honestly recommend going Verena, because Jinshi has a very high reliance on coordinated attack units, right? So, yeah. There are other team members that you can use, like Tao Chi, but, and even Spectro Rover, but I personally wouldn't recommend it, because they just, well, Spectro Rover can't give incandescent stacks anyway, and Tao Chi, she just has, you know, very bad Concerto efficiency. Very, very bad Concerto efficiency. So, yeah, she's just not really that worth it. Now, onwards. We fight the monkey. Alright, we're not doing difficulty 6. We'll do difficulty 4, because that's level 70. Yeah. Or should we do level 80? No, we'll do level 7. You know what? Man up. We're doing this. Alright, so first we want to start off with Jinshi, guys. And
now I'm super dehydrated.
Joint operation.
Then we want to do this.
Power.
Okay, that's a bit loud. I died.
Tree.
It's fine, guys.
Leave it to me.
Okay. As you can clearly see, I'm very awful at this game. Okay. Let's try this again. Maybe we'll do the regular monkey instead of the tactical monkey. This is a tactical monkey. Alright, so what we are going to do, guys, is I'm going to show you how this works.
Going against wind.
And then you swap onto Yuan Wu.
Hear the thunder! Shock handle!
Okay, of course, Yuan Wu does take a while, and there is actually a build that you can do with Yuan Wu. Then you do the Impertinence Heron, and after that you go into Jinshi stuff. And then you come back down, and then you do this. And that did no damage. Why did that not do any damage? And then you can see you can go off again straight away. Did you see that, guys? Even though I didn't have my concerto bar full, I was still able somehow to, you know. There, now you guys can see, right? Now you can see my thing is full, okay? Yeah, so there you can see, now it's full, right? Let's do this guy. Yeah, so you see there, it was full. After the full rotation of, you know, what's his name?
I should lead the way.
Yeah, I'll show you how much damage this can actually do.
Sunlight.
Right. So now that we have a full bar, after your full rotation.
Watch out!
Joint operation. Light coming up. Resistance is futile.
Don't mind the damage that
Together we fight.
Alright, so now that we have the full
Take flight.
damage done.
Evil be fled.
See here? Okay, I just killed the enemies way too quickly, but you gotta trust me on this one, guys. I do a lot of damage. Alright, my Jinshi does do a lot of damage. You have to trust me on this one. Yeah. But that's effectively how you kind of want to do the rotation. That's kind of how you want to do the rotation, guys. You start off with your support or your healer, Verena or Shorekeeper, then you'll go onto your sub DPS, and once that's done, you can go onto Jinshi. And you kind of saw the mechanics and how she worked. You saw with the Monkey Man that Jinshi's Concerto wasn't full, but I was still able to use my outro skill. That was the Unison coming into play. And once I triggered Unison, you saw my bar was basically 0. Okay? Basically 0. And then when I was onto Yuan Wu for like those 10 seconds or however long that was, Jinshi's bar was completely filled up, basically, right? After I went back onto Jinshi, my bar was fully completed, and I would have been able to do like a few hundred damage, but unfortunately, let's just forget the tactical hologram. I mean, normally I'm a lot better at it, but I have to, you know, make the video as well. So it's not a skill issue, all right? It's you guys are making me bad. That's it. Yeah, that's it. My audience is distracting me, which is why I am doing bad in the tactical hologram. But anyway, guys, that's basically been the video. I mean, we've done the entire guide. We've gone over Jinshi's kit and how it works. We've gone over Jinshi's best weapons. We've gone over her echo options. We've also gone over her, what's it called? Her best teammates. Now, of course, we haven't actually gone over anything that's probably going to be good for Jinshi in Renacita, but that's because we don't really have a lot of information about Renacita, like the echo sets and the different echo, you know, what their effects are. Okay, there is one set that's interesting for Jinshi, and that is the Resonant Skill echo set. It's the best in slot 1 for Carlotta. It's the one that she's going to be using, but Jinshi might be able to utilize, not 100%, but she will be able to utilize it somewhat, but it really depends on the echoes, really. So, yeah, maybe when Rinasita comes out and I am able to farm up a good set for that, when I'm able to farm up a good echo set for that echo set, basically, I will probably make a separate video, and see how it works
May I
with
pray
Jinshi
for anything
and show you guys if it's
for
worth
you?
the upgrade
It
or
would be
not.
my honor.
But that's basically it, really. I have been Carvenus14, everyone,
I'm
and
sure
still
your
am.
wishes
And I
will
hope you
come
all
true.
enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.